I don't normally sit on the floor in the garden, but I do spend a lot of time staring at it and staring at the valerian that you can see that's copiously planted here. A few weeks ago I did a video explaining why this garden is planted in the way it is and the purpose of the planting. The purpose of the planting in this instance is to attract one particular favourite moth, and that is the hummingbird hawk-moth. And already the valerian, which I use as an attractant, has worked its magic. It's alright, I'm doing what I normally do here in the garden, keeping an eye out for a visitor from the continent. A few weeks ago I did a video about the planting of this garden and the reasons that I use these particular flowers, mostly valerian, to attract one particular moth, and that moth is the hummingbird hawk-moth. Once again, valerian has worked its magic, and I've had upwards of a dozen moths already in this garden. The reason for this video is not only to show those moths, or some of those moths, but also to show that individual hummingbird hawk-moths can often be identified to individuals. And so if your garden is visited by several moths during the course of the day, more than likely they're three entirely different moths. And so don't always assume that your garden will be visited by one moth over the course of several days. That is highly unlikely. Anyway, got a hummer in the garden here. First one today. You can see how much they love valerian, especially the flowers, the younger flowers or the younger flower spikes that are just starting to open. This one is very flighty. There's a hummer that's just come in. Was in briefly a while ago, but this is one of those individuals that can be identified. This one is very confiding, and you can see just above the white and black markings of the abdomen is that distinctive patch on the right hand side of the abdomen as we look at it. That's the typical sort of identifying mark that you often get with hummingbird hawk-moths. Quite often individuals will have some kind of wear on those abdomen or thorax hairs. This one I've been able to get close to, which you often can with hummers once they're settled. If you approach them when they're the other side of a flower head, you can get very close. These are just absolutely stunning insects, and they prefer, and I'll certainly get the most nectar from the flowers or the flower spikes which are just opening, as is this one, but it's just a stunner. And as I'm holding this now, this is now about 6 or 8 inches from my hands. But you can see that patch that makes it identifiable. And as long as you don't do any sudden movements, and if you need to do any movements, do it when they're not facing you like that. These will often allow close approach. But this mark on the abdomen of this one allows me to make a note of this. So then I can see if this individual comes back to the garden at any time. Fabulous. I know a lot don't like valerian, but when it attracts these, and these have come hundreds if not thousands of miles, probably a few days ago this was in Spain, and believe you me, these can rock it. They fly so fast in direct flight. There's another of those moths that was a childhood dream when I used to flick through the old Observer's Book of Moths many years ago when I was a young child. Another hummer. It's very breezy today a lot of the time, but the sun's out and it's feeling pleasantly warm. That wind has dropped a little bit there, and I'm trying to edge closer to this one. I don't care particularly on the shot, I just like to document the sighted in the record and the individuals if I can. And getting really close isn't always the thing. Sometimes you get a better sighting and record shot from slightly further away, but this individual is now coming nearer. I can't see any noticeable markings. It's struggling to nectar here against this bit of breeze, but they do show amazing control. And what you need to remember, if you've not seen one of these Hummingbird Hawk-moths before, is that the camera slows down the speed of the wings. The wings are just a complete blur. It's coming around now. Look at that. That's just stunning. Oh. This is 27th of June. Got another Hummingbird Hawk-moth in. It's just gone 7:30 at night. And from what I can make out, this is certainly not the individual that we've just showed. This does have an identifying mark, and it's at the left hand side, just at the rear of the head. There's a pale mark which you may well get a glimpse of. This is sheltering. It's quite windy or breezy, so it's on the most sheltered plant here, and off it goes by the looks of it. And surprisingly, not half an hour later, there's a second Hummingbird Hawk-moth in, and I think this is a different individual. In fact, even from this view, I can see that it is. There's quite considerable wear to this one, and the wear is again at the back of the head. In fact, it's completely bald at one point. I think most of this damage comes from emergence of the pupa, but look at that. Once again, using the same tactic of allowing the moth to settle down. Then when it goes out of the view, if you can keep the head of the flower between yourself and the moth, and you'll get views to die for. But you can see that where this is a really conspicuous individual. But look at that. This moth is about a foot away from him. I'm getting a bit closer, but maybe now you might be getting the idea as to why I like to attract these moths. They are stunning. And the day flying as well. Although they will fly at different times of the day, but you can see how this individual really is distinctively damaged or marked. The moth itself is fine, it's just damage to the hairs on the thorax. I've moved in a little bit more, but just look at that. Oh, this moth is now 6 inches away from my hands. And for the first time, Actually getting so close to them, they do actually make a faint humming or buzzing sound with the wings. We'll let it settle down and then we'll see if we can get a bit closer again. Again, preferring the tighter and fresher of the flowers. What a super moth. So now you know the kind of things to look for on those hummingbird hawk-moths in your garden. Well, among the overall background noise that is Market Warsop and these rows of terrace houses where I am, the colourful garden behind me filled with nectar bearing flowers has proved once again just why I plant and keep the garden the way it is. To attract a hummingbird hawk-moth is my annual dream. This year it's very common. This is a hummingbird hawk-moth year. The last few days I've seen numerous visits. I've had hardly a day's gone by really in this last week without getting at least one to this valerian here. But this round of sightings is probably going to come to an end soon as moths move further north and have laid their eggs, and then it's a case of waiting probably till August till the next round of moths start to come back through, and they'll be much fresher and darker than the individuals that's been recorded here in the last few days. These are all sort of fairly worn and faded. Those fresh out of the pupa are immaculate and much darker grey. Beautiful things. I still get as much excitement looking for and seeing hummingbird hawk-moths as I did seeing my first one in this garden well over 20 years ago, I think it would be now. I love the moth, and everybody has a favourite insect, I think, and hummingbird hawk-moth is certainly mine. Hopefully in a few hours time this evening we may get another one. But at least this video has given you some idea of what you can look for and how you can differentiate individual hummingbird hawk-moths attracted to the valerian or other plants in your garden. It's well worth checking, and you'll be quite surprised just how many individuals you get.